on like preface to Shakespeare, an analysis and commentary on that. I was just speaking on I was just giving brief again analysis of the entire text. Now there again, as I told you, uh, Samuel Johnson considered the works of Shakespeare. He felt like works which have stood the test of time are in possession of genuine merit. He felt that literary works, which have stood the test of time, are truly the literary means the works of genuine merit. Genuine merit. ಯಾವ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾಲಘಟ್ಟಕ್ಕೂ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲೂ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಬಲ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೋ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲೂ ಫಿಟ್ ಇನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಅಂತ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯನ ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ಜೆನ್ಯುನ್ ಮೆರಿಟ್ ಅಂತ like literature which is applicable for all time age, like it should even in the present age, even though we are in the 21st century, we should still feel we can still feel the contemporariness of Shakespearean works, the contemporariness of Shakespearean works. So works which have stood the test of time are the works of genuine merit, the works of Shakespeare have successfully survived this test and have assumed the dignity of classics. And which literature is considered as the classical literature? Normally, in Western countries, in West, it is Greek literature which is considered as the classical literature. Whereas when it comes to Indian literature, here in India, when it comes to different languages of Indian literature, we consider Sanskrit as the classical literature. But all the old languages of India are getting this classical tag, Shastriya Sthanamana anta ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. But but the works of Shakespeare can be termed as classical because it has stood. Again, they can be considered as classical works because they have stood the test of time. The contemporariness of his characters, the contemporariness of the plot, again, is very much applicable for all the ages. Again, Shakespearean Macbeth, Shakespearean Hamlet. We can see in our day-to-day life the characters who resemble Shakespearean characters. The people in our day-to-day life, they resemble Shakespearean characters. So Shakespeare's plays are a reflection of general humanity. They enshrine the universal and unchanging aspects of human nature. Universal and unchanging aspects of human nature. See, human nature cannot change with a changing time. Nature has remained same. History might have, again, even in the history, there were culprits, there were criminals, there were warmongers, isn't it? Even today, you can see people, people again are fighting with each other, and there are criminals in the society. There is scope for good, and also there is scope for evil. So there is not much change. There is not much change in humanity, and that means the universal nature of human qualities. The universality of human nature has not changed much. So man remains the same as he was during Shakespearean era. So man, even in 21st century, has remained the same. There are no much changes you see in man's qualities or nature. So he has remained same. Okay, we have not learnt from history. So even modern man has not learned from history. So human nature is very much universal, and that is the reason why Shakespearean characters are very much applicable for all the ages. His characters are typical of mankind, and they are stimulated by genuine common emotions and passions, types of common humanity rather than individuals. His works his works are a treasury of practical morality. His works are a treasury of practical morality, a repository of wisdom. For them, may be gathered a code of moral conduct, both individual and collective. However, Shakespeare's real genius lays in the construction and deployment of his plots and the realism of his dialogues. So again, his plot is very much, again he succeeds in what again in giving a proper shape for his plots. Again, the structure of his plots are very much true to life, and even the dialogues are very much realistic. As I told you, his works are loaded with figures of speeches and also too many idioms and proverbs. But that makes John Dryden to call it as bit glossy. But the fact is, his works are able to sustain the quality of English language. We still learn about the quality of English language that was used during those days. During those days, at the same time, coming to his characters are intensely human and are delineated with extraordinary realism. So his characters are intensely human. They have all the human qualities. You have King Lear, who is a weak father who loves his daughters and shares his kingdom amongst three daughters. Emotionally weak King Lear. On the other side, you have Macbeth, went on becomes again who goes on like who turns out to be a tyrant, a killing machine who kills one after the other to be in power. You have on the other side you have a mighty Julius Caesar. On the other side you have ticklish, ambiguous Hamlet. On the other side you have suspicious Othello. Okay, on the other side you have, so all his characters, what again, it is the flaw in their quality, in their nature, in their characteristics that shape their destiny. Some characters suffers because of destiny, and there are some characters of Shakespeare who suffer because of what, their own genuine mistakes. There is a flaw in their character. You can differentiate Shakespearean characters based on these two aspects: the aspects based on fate or destiny, at the same time the serious flaw in their character. So much opprobrium means harsh criticism. Opprobrium. Much opprobrium has been incurred by the poet's tendency to combine comic and tragic elements in the same play. As I told you, no, like even in cinemas, they follow this. Even in a serious tragic movie, you can see some comic scenes, some comic incidents has been infused forcibly. Audience can easily make out why the director, what is his intention is like. So like no, in order to give tragic relief, somewhere in between the serious aspects of the story, Shakespeare infuses comic scenes or comic incidents. Like he combines comedy with tragedy, tragic incidents, and Shakespeare has received too much of criticism for this. Much opprobrium or harsh criticism has been, Shakespeare has received harsh criticism due to that. He has combined comic scenes, comic incidents in a tragedy. So, but that doesn't mean that the real intention of Shakespeare is to present life as it is. Because when you get up in the morning, you start your day with a smile, but by the time you go to bed in the evening, you may be weeping or you may be crying due to something might have happened in your life on that particular day. You might be crying. You might have started the day with a happy note and ended the same day with a with a with a with a bad note. So that doesn't mean, what does it mean? It means the exact reflection of life. No, Shakespeare knew that. So means there are good days, there are also bad days in each and everyone's life. Means you should. It's life is mixture of both happier days, happier time, and also bad time or bad moments. So that is the reason why he mixes comic incidents or scenes with tragedies. Sorry, with a tragic story. In a tragic story, Shakespeare pursued his characteristic method of composition, namely an alternation of seriousness and levity. Levity means treatment of serious matter with humor. Levity, Levity, treatment of serious matter with humor. So Shakespeare had that uncanny quality of again treating a serious matter with humor. Like he wanted to present life as means he wanted people or the audience to take life easily like. And but the purpose of drama, according to him, at the same time, according to Samuel Johnson, the purpose of drama is to move us, move us. It has to touch. It has to touch the feeling. Touch means not the physical touch. It has to touch emotionally. It has to touch your heart. You should feel. You should feel. You should, as an audience, as an audience, or as a reader of a story or a play or a novel. So you should feel it. You should be able to feel it. A writer succeeds where only when he makes the reader feel it, sense it, or what? Again, only when it moves, when the story or the plot moves you, when it touches your feelings, when it knocks your heart, isn't it? So that is how a writer can be successful. Even he should make the reader sense or feel a kind of. He should be able to steer those emotions which are hardened by tougher days in someone's life, isn't it? So that's what Shakespeare always meant. Like he wanted again. That's the reason why I mixed comedy with tragedy, because he wanted to move the reader or the theater going audience. So that was his purpose, and in which he really succeeds. He really succeeds. While his comedies display an air of spontaneity, he is in naturalness. His tragedies appear to be product of hard labor. Toil means what? Product of hard labor. So you see, his comedies are natural, easy going, like the plot or the story characters. They are like easy going. Therefore, like while his comedies display an air of spontaneity, ease, and naturalness, his tragedies appear to be product of toil. Means he has worked a lot on his tragedies than comedies. So it seems that Shakespeare was finding it easy in writing comedies than tragedies, because you cannot match the classical tragedies. When you are writing a tragedy, you should always keep the classical tragedies like Oedipus Rex in your mind, because no other tragedy can match Oedipus Rex, Sophocles, Oedipus Rex. So in that way, Shakespeare always followed classical literature, and he knew he cannot match it, but still he tried his best. He tried his best. He worked very much hard to write better tragedies. According to me, again, when you read all the tragedies, I do feel Macbeth is close to my heart, because Macbeth again is again there is both fate which plays the role in his life, and also there is flaw in his character also. He becomes the victim of over ambition. On the other side, he was also victim of what? Destiny or fate, but the thing is like out of all the tragedies, I always feel that Macbeth is well written tragedy. It's a well written tragedy. And even when it comes to comedies, there are comedies like Twelfth Night and some other plays which are which exhibit or display the real talent of Shakespeare. I always felt Shakespeare was at ease, very at ease, or he is very cool in handling comedies. In handling comedies, yes. When it comes to language, his language is not without blemishes. without blemishes. Sometimes it tends to be rough and obscure. Though Shakespeare's accomplishments and achievements are truly astounding, his faults are equally weighty and numerous. In his primary interest to provide entertainment, he relegates to the background his foremost duty, which is to instruct society and reform manners. So, in a way, he feels like critics feel that he feels lost. He feels lost when it comes to informing society or mending society when it comes to manners. No, a writer has got certain role, some roles to perform, isn't it? Certain roles to perform. He has a serious role to perform. A writer has the ability to change the society or mend the society, isn't it? A book like Onto This Last of John Ruskin had an impact on Gandhi. Gandhi read Onto This Last, read it long back when he's in his college days, and it had an impact on him. So Gandhi uh, dropped himself in freedom struggle, giving up all his professional life, personal life. He took the lead, isn't it? So there are situations where a writer, certain books, certain phrases, certain quotations, which will have an impact on somebody's life. Somebody's life. A writer has a serious job to perform or to fulfill. What he can do best is so through his works he can mend the ways or the manners of the society in which Shakespeare has somehow failed. That is what the critics have felt. He has succeeded in entertaining. He has succeeded in entertaining the mass or the audience, but he has failed in instructing or informing or mending the society. That is what the critics feel. He is not zealous in the distribution of poetic justice. The poetic justice is achieved only when your work is able to change or mold or mend the what? The society. The society. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬರವಣಿಗೆ ಸಮಾಜನ ಬದಲಾಯಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ಆರ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ಅಚೀವ್ ದಟ್ ಪೋಯೆಟಿಕ್ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ಅಂತ. ದಟ್ ಪೋಯೆಟಿಕ್ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ಒಂದು ನ್ಯಾಯ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದು ಅಚೀವ್ ಆಗದೆ ವೆನ್ ಯು ರೈಟ್ ಪೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವರ್ಕ್, ವೆನ್ ಯು ವರ್ಕ್ ಆನ್ ಅ ಪೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವರ್ಕ್ that can mend, that can alter, that can change to society. There are works which have created huge uproar in the society, isn't it? Works like Karl Marx, uh, again, that's capital. Now, which is against capitalism, has created a political revolution, isn't it? So many political revolutions happened because of Karl Marx, Das Kapital, which is written originally in German language. So what I mean to say is, uh, some works do have impact on writers than only sorry on readers. So it might some work might create a kind of might have an impact on people, and it may lead to a revolution also sometimes. So even Martin Luther King's Jr.'s famous speech, even Nelson Mandela had an impact. Again, got influenced by Gandhi. Gandhi got influenced by Leo Tolstoy, and also by John Ruskin. Nelson Mandela got influenced by whom? By Gandhi. Martin Luther King Jr. was also influenced by Gandhi, and Obama was influenced by Martin Luther King Jr. Barack Obama. You can see the modern day leaders keeping someone as uh, what, an icon or an idol, isn't it? So, what I mean to say here is like some works again should serve what? Should serve poetic justice in which Shakespeare has literally failed. That is what Samuel Johnson feels. Thus, Shakespeare displays an apparent which is to make sorry an apparent indifference in discharging the fundamental duty of a writer. He evinces no keen interest in the construction of his plots. Often they appear to have been put together in a hasty, slovenly, and lackadaisical manner. Lackadaisical manner means what? Loose manner. They don't appear constructed well. The reason is like Again, as I told you, he seems to be in hurry. He seems to be in hurry in to end his works, to end up to conclude his drama. So in that way, like it appears like hastily contrived works. So Shakespeare is sometimes guilty of violating chronology. In the comic scenes, judges are often ribald and gross. Even his ladies and gentlemen lack delicacy and refinement. These are some, again, lacunas or some loopholes that you see in Shakespearean works. Lacunas or loopholes that you see in Shakespearean works. His comic jesters or jokers that you see, the jesters that you see, jest or the comedies, comic scenes or comics or jest appear ribald or gross. Tumba ಏನು ಅಷ್ಟು ಖುಷಿ ಕೊಡೋಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಹಾಸ್ಯದ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶಗಳು ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾದಂಥ ಹಾಸ್ಯ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶಗಳು ಅಷ್ಟು ತೀರಾ ಗ್ರಾಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ತುಂಬಾ ಡಲ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಟ್ ಅಪಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಡಲ್. ಓಕೆ. In any case, a writer's duty is to present the most salutary manners in the interest of the public taste. Yet another defect is that his tragedies are labored and strained with the result, and they tend to be tedious and obscure. It appears his tragedies appear tedious and obscure. Again, at the same time, Shakespeare's stage is often marred by bombastic diction, and needless circumlocution, and his uh, fondness for quibbles and puns is nothing short of besetting sin. So he uses the language. When it comes to language, you can see his diction is bombastic in nature, and needless circumlocution, and his fondness for quibbles. Again, quibbles means too many experiments, again, with words. Experiments he makes with words. He drops one word and picks another word. So excessive use of too many difficult words. Okay, too many means, again, he wants to display his caliber or talent in what his skill or talent in or command over English language. So in that extent, is in that to that extent he succeeds. But when it comes to reader's perception, reader's understanding of of a work, it appears bombastic and circumlocution, and also again his fondness for quibbles and also puns is nothing but besetting sin. It's nothing but short of a besetting sin. That is what he feels. That otherwise uh, everything is okay, and uh, somehow I'll stop there. Remaining points, remaining issues. I hope you can read that, because there are a few more points to be added due to shortage of time. I'll just complete the text there, and I'll move on to the next text, which is a poem. I think you have this poem. It's an elegy. It is for, I think, it is in the paper, elegy written in the country churchyard. It's been prescribed for you. They prescribed it for you, and I think it's in. Wait a minute. Yeah, paper 1.3. Paper 1.3. In paper 1.3, that is Restoration and 18th century English literature. In the same paper, you have Gray's elegy. The question number 13 in section C will be on Gray's elegy. You have to answer it for 10 marks. Okay, there will be a question on this elegy for 10 marks. Section C, question number 13. The title of the paper is Restoration and 18th Century Literature. Okay, hardcore 1.3. In that, again, the paper you have a text called poem called Elegy Written in the Country Churchyard by Thomas Gray. By Thomas Gray. What do you mean by elegy? You want the question paper pattern? You can log into my WhatsApp, or I'll send it to the WhatsApp. Sorry, the Telegram group. If you want, I'll send the soft copy of the question paper pattern tomorrow. I'll send the soft copy of the question paper pattern tomorrow, or probably by this evening, or if it is possible by noon itself, to the Telegram group. If you are not in the Telegram group, you can drop a message to my WhatsApp number. Okay, I'll send you the soft copy. Or you form a group in WhatsApp and you say, and you include me in the group so that I can help you to send the pattern in the group. Okay, by sending the pattern in the group. So this Thomas Gray, like he was born in the year 1716 and died in the year 1771. Now he has written an important elegy. What do you mean by elegy? Elegy normally means a morning song. Morning alla morning. MOURNING, morning song. Andre Shoka Gite. Normally, elegy is a poem that centers on the theme of death of a person or a people of a person or people. The tone is normally sombre. Sombre means dull. SOMBRE. Sombre mood. The tone is dull, sombre, and at the same time, SOMBRE. Sombre. Elegy is a ಶೋಕ ಗೀತೆ. ಶೋಕ ಗೀತೆ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಕರಿತೀರ. ಯಾರಾದರೂ ತೀರೋಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಸತ್ತೋಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವರನ್ನ ಉದ್ದೇಶಿಸಿ ಬರೀತೀರಾ ಎಲೆಜಿ, ಶೋಕ ಗೀತೆಗಳು. Okay, it's one type of poem. You have so many types. Sonnets ಇದೆ, odes ಇದೆ, elegies ಇದೆ, ballads ಇದೆ. Okay, ತುಂಬಾ varieties ಇದೆ in poetry, isn't it? So elegy is a poem that centers on the theme of death of a person or people. Sombre in tone. It is typical. It's very much it's very much lyrical. It's very much lyrical rather than narrative. You can add tune to it, and you can compose music to it, and you can make a song out of it. Normally, elegies are lyrical in nature. They don't appear narrative. At the same time, they are. It's a poem. Elegies, again, they're called as it's a type of poem that centers on the theme of death of a person or people. Sombre means dull. In tone and approach, it appears dull. It is lyrical rather. ಶೋಕ ಗೀತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡಲ್ ಆಗೇ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ? You cannot rejoice like in that Ode to Grecian Urn, even Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. Ali, he rejoices, he enjoys, isn't it? He enjoys. This is not an ode. This is an elegy. Elegy normally will be dull. ಶೋಕ ಗೀತೆಗಳು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಡಲ್ ಆಗೇ ಇರಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. So it is lyrical rather than narrative. It expresses what feelings of loss and sorrow, and also praising the deceased. Diseased andre disease doesn't mean disease means also person who is dead. There is the difference in spelling. DEISCD. Are diseased ಬೇರೆ, DEI ಆ ಸ್ಪೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಬೇರೆ, DECESCD, DECEASCD. Disease, diseased ಬೇರೆ. Disease means someone who is dead. So it expresses what feelings or loss of or sorrow, and also praises someone who is dead. So elegy written in a country churchyard. in a country churchyard. A beautiful title he has given. This elegy was published in the year 1751. 1751 is very much important in the history of England. In the history of England, because England was on the verge of industrialization. On the verge of industrialization, people were moving from rural areas to cities like London. Cities like London, Glasgow, and other major cities, they were moving to urban areas from rural areas due to industrialization. It had a severe had a severe impact on agriculture, on agrarian sector, on agrarian sector. So there's another important factor. This is the most widely quoted poems. This is the most widely quoted poems of the 18th century. It is a meditation on the inevitability of death. This elegy, this Thomas Gray's elegy, is a meditation on the inevitability of death. Inevitability means what? No, it's inevitable. We are all bound to die. So death is, we cannot escape from death. Inescapable. So we cannot escape from death. It is inevitable. We are all bound to face what? Death. Death is the only certainty, and it is a meditation on the inevitability of death. This Gray's elegy is a meditation on the inevitability of death, the vanity of ambition, and the universal human desire to be loved. We all expect, we all want people to be loved. We all means people will be having so much of money, property, all the lavishes in life, but still they feel lonely. They feel shortage of love, isn't it? So love is again love is something that again uh, that can get rid of your loneliness or remoteness. So, what I mean to say here is the vanity of ambition and the universal human desire to be loved. It is a meditation on the inevitability of death. It looks at death as a leveler, and indiscriminate force that makes no distinction between the famous or anonymous. Death is a great leveler. Means even Ambani has to die, and a common man who is riding a Tonga in a city like Mysore has to face death. Death is a great leveler. Nobody can escape. Nobody can escape from death. Can escape from death, and it is the greatest leveler, and it is indiscriminative in force. Again, indiscriminative in nature. It is called as indiscriminate force, a great leveler that makes no distinction between the famous or any anonymous. So he has used so many lines to just mean that, and Thomas Hardy, a famous novelist, has borrowed the caption or the title for one of his plays from this poem. The title of that novel is Far from the Madding Crowd, written by one of the famous Victorian novelists called Thomas Hardy. Again, Far from the Madding Crowd is the line again that is used by Thomas Gray in this elegy. Even Chinua Achebe in his book called, sorry, for the book called Things Fall Apart, a famous novel again from African literature. Things Fall Apart. For that book, the title again called Things Fall Apart, which he has used for the novel, is borrowed from W.B. Yeats' novel Second Coming. Sorry, not the novel, poem Second Coming. So, Second Coming is the poem written by Irish poet W.B. Yeats. Chinua Achebe borrows the title for his novel from that poem. Things Fall Apart. The same thing has happened here. Thomas Hardy, the Victorian poet, has borrowed the title from title from Gray's elegy called Elegy Written in the Country Churchyard. What is the setting of this poem? The setting is mid 1700s, mid 17th century, not exactly 17th century. It is 18th century, to be precise. Because this poem or elegy, poem in the form of elegy, written was published in the year 1750s, 51, which means like at the center part of the 18th century, central period, you can say, the central decade or the midway of 18th century. As I told you, it was a time when industrialization was on boom in England, and mid 1700s. So 18th century is the decade before industrial revolution in England was about to set up. And at the same time, what is the setting? The place cemetery of St. Giles Church at a small town called Stockporges, Buckinghamshire, England. Buckinghamshire, southern England. Gray himself is buried in the same cemetery. ಅದೇ ಸ್ಮಶಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಗ್ರೇನ ಹೂತು ಹಾಕಲಾಗಿದೆ. There is a famous cemetery called Westminster Abbey, where even Shakespearean body has been buried. Famous people of great caliber, of great celebrities or great poets, great dramatists from British literature, English literature, and also famous personalities from British politics are buried in Westminster Abbey, which is a province located in London. Okay, so at the same time, Gray began writing this work in the year 1742 and finished in the year 1750. Gray wrote the poem in four-line stanzas. Four-line stanzas means quatrains. The poem transcended the limits of time and place. That's another important aspect. So it has transcended the limit of time and place. What is the reason behind it? The reason is how it could transcend the time and place. It could transcend. It could come out of England. It has crossed the boundaries of England. It has reached all the literatures of world. They have been translated. They have translated these works. This poem has been translated into different languages. So how could it be possible? How could it be possible? The reason is the poem has transcended the boundaries or the place or the time. The reason is it deals with a theme called death, the inevitability of death. And it deals with the theme of death. And what else? The transitoriness of all the worldly glories and human achievements. Means whatever that we have achieved, whatever that we have gained in life is nothing. We all should leave this earth with bare hands, with empty hands. That is what you know. You all know the story of Alexander the Great. When he was buried, when at the time of his death, when he was returning from Pakistan back to his Macedonia, he asked one of his followers. Again, he died at the age of 27 or 28. He was too young. He was totally defeated because of continuous war. He was physically struggling. He felt that he would not survive. He asked one of his strong ally or a closest general in the army to bury him with the bare hands, hands that too that has to again that again hands that again the bare hands that should look towards what? Look towards the sky. Again, facing what? The sky. Again, the bare hands facing sky. Means, what does it mean? Again, it means like even Alexander the Great knew that he has carried nothing with him, even at again on the verge of death, because he had by the time he had won half of the world, including Asia and Europe, and the worldly pleasures or glories are nothing. Again, when it comes to facing death, we are all bound to face death. The most appealing is the realization caused by the poem. The paths of the glory lead. The paths of the glory lead, but to the grave. Whatever the glory that we carry with us in our back, again behind us, whatever the glory, the reputation, image, money, property, whatever that we do, the struggle that we do, whatever that we try to achieve in life, the name, fame, whatever that we achieve, it is left behind. We are all moving towards what? The glory, sorry, not the glory to grave. The paths of glory lead, the paths of glory lead, but to the grave, but to the grave. We are all bound to face what? Death. It deals with death again, which is rude, which is very much rude, and also forefathers. Again, in this poem, he uses the images of forefathers. Forefathers, death as a common occurrence in the world, and the anticipated death of the youth who may be poet himself. So he has brought two images here. He speaks about ancestors who are already dead, and lying in the graveyard, buried there in the cemetery, lying there. On the other hand, there is a youth, there is an young man who is on the verge of death. Again, he uses the example of his own friend called Robert West. Robert West, who is on the verge of death, who is on the verge of death. The futility of all the human ambitions and inspirations is hinted in the poem. The contrast between the lives of the rich and poor, and the privileged and the underprivileged, uh, forms another theme in the poem. The poor people, for the poor people, poverty is a blessing in disguise. It does not allow them to rise higher. It restrains them doing evil. But the rich possesses power to do good, commit uh, mischief, and bring what? Destruction to this world. The poem also deals with the desire to be famous. To be famous, people expect society to remember them after death, isn't it? That is why yesterday I was watching a documentary on Taj Mahal, where why Taj Mahal was built and what happened with the death of Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan borrowed money for credit to build Taj Mahal. The expense total cost to build Taj Mahal was around 4 crore rupees. 4 crore rupees at that time. 1610 to no 16 not 1610, 1600 to 1622, 1600 to 1622. It took almost 16 not to 1622. It took almost 20 years to complete that um, great monument, or the seventh wonder, one of the seven wonders in the world. So one of the seven wonders. So like what I mean to say here is, even Taj Mahal, which is the replica, which is the symbol of what? Symbol of love. Symbol of love. Again, what exactly was the intention of building Taj Mahal? So Shah Jahan had an intention of what? Leaving a monument where people do come and visit, witness what? The token of love of Shah Jahan for whom? For Mumtaz, his wife, beloved wife. Taj Mahal is what? It's a token of love. So what was the intention of again Shah Jahan to build a greatest monument like the Taj Mahal? Taj Mahal. The reason is, as I told you again, everybody in the society, in this world, wants to live what wants to live a kind of indelible imprint. We all want to live a kind of what our own foot image, so that like people should remember us when we are gone. People should remember us. So but history forgets people, and public memory is also short. There might be days in future where people might forget Gandhi also. Like that, those days are not far. Those days are not far, because there is no scope for ahimsa these days, isn't it? The poem also deals with the desire to be famous. People expect the society to remember even after their death. The poet shows how even the poor uh, the poem also again shows how even the poor rustics try to perpetuate their memory through what? Through inscriptions on some frail memorial decked decked with uncouth, uncouth rhymes and shapeless sculpture. ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು. You might have seen on these epitaphs on in cemeteries. Epitaphs ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಗೋರಿ ಕಲ್ಲುಗಳು. ಗೋರಿ ಕಲ್ಲುಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೆತ್ತಿಸಿರ್ತಾರೆ. So there are some interesting epitaphs which I have read in Google. You can search it in the Google. In interesting again carvings, in interesting carvings or engraved on epitaphs. So one famous poet asked his friend to carve one particular phrase like don't forget, I'll be waiting for you up above. Like ಈ ತರ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಮರಿಬೇಡ, ನಾನು ನಿನಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಕಾಯ್ತಿರ್ತೀನಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ such interesting epitaphs, sorry, carvings are there in some again in some epitaphs which you normally find it if you visit Christian cemeteries, burial spots. So so what again, even poor people want their names, their achievements to be decked or carved on their epitaphs. It also, the poem also presents what? The nostalgic longing for life. The nostalgic longing for life. We all want to live. We all want to live, survive. Everyday routine, dull life that we are engaging with is nothing but struggle for what? Struggle for survival. Struggle for survival. Struggle to live, or fight to live. Okay. It also presents what? The nostalgic longing for life. It shows how no man wants to die. How no man wants to die, or no man dies without casting one longing lingering look behind. A desire for sympathy and for being remembered after death is presented in the poem. The elegy In this elegy, Thomas Gray has written again an elegy of 128 lines. It's an elegy of 128 lines divided into 32 quatrains, 32 quatrains, and including three stanzas devoted to epitaph, including three stanzas devoted to epitaph, which you find at the end of the elegy. The structure of the whole poem is skillfully organized and gives the impression of a carefully designed edifice. Carefully designed edifice. And I can't read each and every line. There are 32 stanzas. It may take another 3 hours to complete this poem. I'll sum up like with few important points. I think there are 10 more minutes to deal with on this important topic. When it comes to epitaph, like in the epitaph, it describes on obscure youth of humble birth and melancholic nature. This youth was unknown to fortune and fame, but he acquired much knowledge and learning. He was very sincere and generous. His life was full of misery and sorrow, but God recompensed him for his gifts in the form of a friend. The concluding lines of the epitaph advises the reader not to ask or disclose or discuss the merits or his weaknesses. Both these are of no consequence now that he has resigned himself to God, whose grace he hopes to receive in the end. So they say the epitaph that he has reserved at the end of the elegy is all for himself, is all for Thomas Gray himself. Again, as I told you, this elegy reveals a growing democratic sentiment, and also romantic mood, the romantic mood of the poet. The romantic mood of the poet. Again, the poet raises the voice of democratic spirit much before French or American Revolution, giving voice to the rustic life and paving way for liberty, equality, and fraternity. So, as I told you, in again before death, all are equal. All are equal. Nobody can escape from the clutches of death. Let it be Ambani or a Tonga Wala in a remotest village or a remote place like Mysore in India. Nobody can escape from death. We are all bound to face death. So death is the greatest leveler. So in this poem, in this elegy, he is able to raise the voice of democratic ideology or spirit much before French Revolution. No? French Revolution took place in the year 1787, right? 1787, and this elegy or sonnet, this elegy was published in the year 1751. Much before the French Revolution, this poet, was able to advocate what the revolutionary ideas like democratic ideas like again equality, fraternity, and liberty. Instead of conflict, or again instead of fitting himself or confining himself to a fashionable society, he undertakes the life of rustic people of the village in the poem. So he uses the rustic people as the true characters in the poem. He uses peasants, common man, okay, common man, peasants who are going to the field, to the respective fields to plow their lands, and also he also uses the image of shepherds and other common people, even the grazing people, grazers, okay, common sheep grazers or again cow grazers. So he uses so many shepherds and also grazers and also other common rustic characters are used. People representing the lower strata of society, they are used in this elegy in order to give a democratic touch. Again, Thomas Gray uses the people from common life, as his characters. It makes the shift from neoclassical poetry of the Augustan age towards the romantic poetry of the coming age, ushers in the era of romanticism. Through Thomas Gray, romantic poetry. So Thomas Gray's elegy, written in the country churchyard, gave scope or ushered in what? A literary movement called romanticism. So, who are the fathers of romanticism, romantic literature? It is William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. Again, William Wordsworth was influenced by French Revolution, was also influenced by French Revolution, but before the French Revolution, before S.T. Coleridge or Wordsworth came into the literary horizon, this man Thomas Gray was able to write a poem on common issues of life, the common issues, the basic aspects of life. So it makes the shift from neoclassical poetry, or even the Augustan age. So John Dryden, Alexander Pope, they are called as neoclassics. Neo means neoclassics, who followed, who advocated, who followed, who loved the classical Greek literature. That is the reason why they were called as neoclassics. They tried to adopt the classical literature, the form, the technique. They wanted to follow everything that has been adopted by Greeks in their literature. So neoclassics are those who followed classical literature, or the Greek. They considered Greek literature as the standing example or the role model or the sample for themselves. So this poem is a complete deviation from Augustan literature and also neoclassical poetry. This poem has got universal appeal. It has got an universal appeal. There is little originality, novelty of thought, sentiment expressed. It expresses the feeling for the common man. It transcends the limits of time, place, appeals the people everywhere, in all times. The originality of this poem or the elegy lies with the non-fulfillment of the desires of common man and the non-utilization of his powers and talents due to what? Due to lack of opportunities. So the common man or the poor folk or the people from the best stock or the common people, they don't find equal opportunities to excel themselves. They cannot display or exhibit or unleash their talent due to what? Lack of opportunities. Due to lack of opportunities. So even in now, in the name of democracy, you can see there is too much of nepotism, there is too much of jingoism, there is too much of what? Casteism, there is too much of all isms. So what I mean to say is here is even though we are living in a democratic setup, we hardly find liberty, we hardly find a society which achieves what? Liberty, equality, and fraternity. Because people from common life or the again poor people or people from base stock, they don't get such opportunities, equal opportunities to excel in life. Even though they have talent, even though they have percentage, only those who have money can succeed, can maneuver, can manipulate, can do anything what they want, can manipulate the people in power, can change the people in power. So if you have money, if you are rich, you can dictate terms. That is what that you see. That is what we see. That is what we are experiencing in the present day world, isn't it? So this is what the message he wants to give: non-fulfillment of the desires of common man, and the non-utilization of his powers and talents due to lack of opportunities. We all want to achieve something in life. We all want to leave that indelible imprint. We all want to leave a kind of image, again, which has to be remembered by the people from the again by the again by the people in the coming generation. We all want people to remember us. That is the reason why the great dictators, they ask their followers to erect their statues or bus in certain circles in big cities. Why do they expect their statues to be erected? The reason is they want the future progeny or the future generation to remember their achievements. We all want our future generation to remember us. For that, we have to achieve something. We have to reach certain goals. We have to do something that can help the mankind, isn't it? Otherwise, nobody will remember you. People do still remember people like, again, Abdul Kalam, the first people friendly president of India. Why do we remember Abdul Kalam? People friendly, first president of India who was people friendly, who opened the doors of Rashtrapati Bhavan for common man to come and see, isn't it? So till then, Rashtrapati Bhavan was a far away dream for a common man. So in that way, like a man like from fisherman community reaching the topmost position of a democratic setup like India, is not a simple achievement. It's not a simple achievement. In that, Abdul Kalam simply excels. We all adore Abdul Kalam. We all consider Abdul Kalam and even people like Swami Vivekananda as our icons. Why do we keep them our icon as standing examples or icons? The reason is the kind of lifestyle that they led. They led the kind of message they gave, the kind of life, the kind of achievement they made. So this is nothing but, again, we all aspire, to be like them. But can we? No. The reason is that, again, this is a competitive world. Again, if you are poor, if you are from a common life, you cannot reach that height. The reason is there's too much of competition and there is too much of nepotism, there is too much of money lobby play. So thank you one and all the best for your exams. I think this is my last class. I was all set to teach another text. Due to lack of time, I was able to teach, I think, five important texts. One is Paradise Lost. The second one is Julius Caesar, Merchant of Venice. and also Samuel Johnson's preface to Shakespeare. And the last one is Thomas Gray's Elegy written in the country churchyard. So, with this note, I thank you one and all, and enjoy the remaining part of the day. All the best for your exams. If you need the question paper pattern, uh, if you are in the Telegram group, drop the soft copy there. You can circulate it with other fellow classmates. Thank you one and all. If it is possible, if you have any doubts regarding the text that I have dealt with till now, and there was one more text to be dealt, again, if provided the chance, if I get one more hour, I may again end up again completing that text also. I thought of doing the entire poem in 32, again, which is in 32 stanzas, but due to lack of time, I cannot like cover up all the means all the lines here, every paragraph here. So sorry for that, and all the best for your exams. So if you have any doubts regarding the text that I have dealt, please do visit or ping me to my number or call me. Okay. Thank you. Thank you once again. All the best.